To grade or not to grade? That is the question.
All right, defects. Like Guy said, we're going to be talking about should you grade or should you not grade. It's Defects Discuss. But before we get into that, the Butcher 105 is going to tell you about our sponsors.
First up, you know who it is. Go Collect Master Erod 212 with Express Comic Book Pressing for all your pressing and cleaning needs. Defects 10 gets you 10% off. Next up, Mutant Beaver Comics, one of the world's largest online variant retails, shipping worldwide. Defects 10 for 10% off. Tell Pat and the B-Man the Defects sent you.
There you go, there you go. And Guy Forge has something to tell us as well before we get started.
Yeah, well, Defects, if you've been around or maybe you've been living under a rock, you don't know about the Defects first variant cover by Dynamite Comics and our boy Blackie Shepherd. Matt, throw that beautiful cover up there. Defects, if you have not gotten this, let me explain one thing. You got 1 day. 1 day left. That's it. And this baby goes bye-bye. So get them while they're hot. There's not much time left. The fire's burning. Get your copy of Vampirilla vs. the Reanimator. The link is in the description below. 1 day, people.
All right, boys. I just checked the CGC website. Our books are finally in grading and encapsulation phase.
Oh, my God.
So I'm hoping in 3 weeks we should have them back. And then we'll be eating gummy bears in Jay's basement with Guy opening up some books.
Oh, my God.
When did we send those in, Jay?
Oh God, it had to be March or April. And it was a 9/8 pre-screen, so those usually fly by.
Yeah. They fly. All right.
I mean, at this point, what do you think? Do we keep sending books to whether it's CGC or CBCS? I mean, obviously, you know, here we use CGC right now. That's what we're using. Do we keep sending them? Like, what's the take? What are we doing here? What are we gonna do in the future? What do you guys think?
I guess it comes down to what books you want to grade, right? If it's books you're looking to sell. So here it is now. If we're a half a year behind on grading, getting your graded books back, your spec books have to hit, man. You have to do some deep down specking because there's no way you could grade a book like, say, Falcon and Winter Soldier came out and you wanted to grade a first appearance of Danny Reyes. If you grade that book when the show comes out, obviously it's going to come down in value. So I think your best bet is, listen, major keys are major keys. Blue chip books are blue chip books. We're going to send those in regardless, right? But if it's speculation books you're thinking about, you're going to have to send them in before the spec is even spec, if that makes any sense.
You can't send them in when the fire's burning, bro. I mean,
no way.
If that's the game, you're way off. You're way off. I mean, my books are sent in just for the love of sending them. But I mean, I feel bad for anyone trying to do that right now because the timing is totally off. There's no way you can keep up with it at that point.
Well, I think it's not only that, right? I mean, the cost has gone up, right? It's not cheap. Like the last invoice that we sent, obviously we sent it all together. That was $1,000 invoice, 40 books, modern. I mean, that's a lot of money, you know. And I think, you know, you get a good mixture here, right? You know, Guy sends a lot of books, just keeping his PC. Although I know on this one, I think you have a couple that you're gonna end up selling, right?
There's a couple. They weren't really spec books. They were just nice books.
Right. You know, and Jay and I are kind of in the middle. Some of the stuff's gonna stay. Probably Jay's getting more stuff that's gonna stay with him, and then some of the stuff that we're gonna eventually sell, whether it's sooner or later. You know, and I think Jay hit the nail on the head, right? It's all about timing right now, right? Especially right now, we've seen how fast things kind of do one of these up, down, back down, up, down. So, if you're looking to maximize the dollar, right? I think it all comes down to grade also, right? If we're talking about we're talking about moderns right now. If you have a modern, I used to say, you know what? If it's a modern book, it's got to be a 9.8 or it's not, or else not worth it for me to slab. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think 9.6s, and even you can make a case for 9.4s on certain books, are carry that premium. Whereas before, if you were looking to sell a raw book, if you had a really crisp book that you knew was at least a 9.4 but wasn't a 9.8, you were almost better selling it raw, right, Jay? I mean, than getting the 9.6.
And that's a great point to bring up, because me, myself, as a collector, I won't buy a modern book in a 9.8 because it passes that crazy price. If I'm going to buy it slab, I'll try to buy a 9.6 for hundreds of dollars cheaper and just send it to Erod and get a press and a clean if it needs it. Modern books don't usually need a clean, but a nice fresh press, and try to get that 9.8, because that 9.8 premium is super expensive, man. I'd rather find a raw copy out in the wild or on eBay and submit it for that 9.8. Me personally, but I agree with you say 9.8, 9.6 is right there.
That's gone up so much.
The 9.6 is the bargain grade.
And that's what modern, Jay?
Yeah, that's what modern books. That's anything new.
Yeah. I think I think the value of the 9.6 has increased over the past 2021. I think between two things, between the boom that we saw around March of this year, and also the increase in turnaround times and cost on CGC, slabs are now carrying even more of a premium, right? And you could turn around and say, I always have this argument with myself internally. I speak to myself, and I say, why do I need to grade stuff? Yeah, guys, go ahead.
As long as you don't answer back, we're okay.
No, I don't say
that. Yeah, that's what you got to watch out for.
Then you start questioning my sanity. Yeah.
Yeah.
But although these days, you should be questioning it. So you say to yourself, why, if I'm going to keep books in my PC, why do I need them graded? And sometimes when you look at it, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. I have an FF1 back there that if I had it raw, it would be, I'm showing off. It would be great. However, I started thinking about it and I'm like, okay, we're not spring chickens anymore, right? So God forbid something happens. There's a lot of money. Yeah, if you're watching this channel, that there's a lot of money in comics, between Guy's collection, Jay's collection, and my collection. We got some good books there. And if that's left behind to somebody, our families, whoever it may be, they don't know what a raw FF1 is worth. Although, if it's graded, it's much easier to look up that value and know what you have, right? We see our buddy Very Gary. I don't want to blow him up, but he buys collections from people that, I don't want to say they don't know what they're doing, but they don't have the time to figure out what they have and how much it's worth. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of time that goes into it on the back end when you're buying thousands and thousands of comics at a time to maybe get 100 good comics, right? So that's the other standpoint. People out there used to talk to, somebody like our buddy Man from Beantown. He didn't like stuff being graded. But for me, I like it because it gives me a structure as, if God forbid something happened, or God forbid money was needed, or God forbid my family's like, hey, Matt's no longer here, what do we do with this? They have a better guideline. That's just another way I think about it. I don't know what you guys think about that at all.
Yeah, I think it's, people, you get that argument, and I get it. Listen, however you want to collect is how you want to collect. If you want to grade your books, you grade them. If you want to keep them raw, you keep them raw. But I don't like the argument of, I keep my books raw because I want to read them. One, it's going to depreciate the value. Two, there's a good chance we've all damaged books reading them. I don't care how careful you are. Sometimes you're too careful, and that's when you damage a book the most.
Right, yeah.
And second of all, you have so many resources to go online and read that same exact comic book right now. And I get it. Listen, Stan Lee said it. It's like boobs. You want to touch the real thing. But if it's a big book,
It's the best line ever.
yeah, if it's a big book, guys, you want it in the, me personally, I don't want to say you. Me personally, I want it encapsulated. I want it graded, and I'll just go online and read that book. Or grab it in omnibus form or trade paperback form. And if it's a big book, you know you're going to find it in all types of forms.
And it's funny. I look at it a different way. I look at it more of like the artwork of the book and having it preserved and showing it off the way I want to show it off and putting it up in my kid's room. And like Jay, if you look above his head and look across that pillar there, like that's just dope, man. I love looking at that when I go over there, and they're all lined up like soldiers. Like that is like the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like that like house was built exactly for those slabs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's how funny that is. That they fit perfectly in there. That air duct, thank the architect, because it is the perfect size. And like we sit there and I start at the beginning and I walk down the end and I'm like, and these guys are talking and meanwhile I'm just like, look at this one, look at this one, look at this one. That's what I enjoy. That's the fun part about that. I encapsulated so nothing happens to the book. Obviously, we can't say we know the overall effect of them if they're really protected in there, right? I don't know if they are. I mean, we assume they are. We assume they're not going to get damaged in there, but who knows? As far as I know, they're nice to look at. It protects them, and obviously as an art form, popping them on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I want to say that the changes and the increased time definitely affected, and you guys could all answer this. Definitely affected what books I'm sending, and I'm looking at this book. I'm like, should I send this or not? You know what? I'm just gonna hold on to this one raw. Or, you know what? I really want to sell this book, and I'm like, start calculating. I'm like, okay, well, the movie comes out here, and I won't get it back for 3 months after that, so.
But that's
selling it raw.
That's
right?
the funny part too, because as we looked at this, let's talk about it. When was the last time we sent books? April.
Then right.
Yeah.
Of course it affected it. We
We've
haven't
waited.
sent
Yeah.
we haven't sent anything since April, guys.
Oh, you know what? I have, and I'm glad you.
Okay.
That's a perfect segue, guy,
There you go.
because I sent books in. I sent the first appearance of Dane Whitman. I sent the first appearance of Black Knight, the first appearance of Iron Fist, all to a CGC signing for Roy Thomas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which leads me to this, right? I think they're focusing more time on their private signings than they are regular blue label books that to be graded, right? And I think that takes away from the hobby. And I'll give you a little mini butcher's block, and we all know how famous those have been lately, right? So here we go, right?
Should we put up the logo?
No, you don't have to put it up because ain't a major one. Trust me, there's one coming where you're gonna throw it up. But
Got it.
Oh God.
CGC, right? They got into this new thing where they're not having creators come in. Well, they always have creators, right? But they're having actors and voice actors come in. And like I said, you guys collect how you want to collect. If you want a book signed by an actor or a voice actor, that's on you, man. That whatever floats your boat, right? Me personally, for them to bring Robert Downey Jr. in and charge $750 for his signature, right?
Wow.
Hold on, it gets better. If you want Robert Downey Jr. to sign Tony Stark or Iron Man, it's $1,160, right?
What?
Right?
That's
yeah. So
crazy.
it's almost $1,200. So
So it's
okay.
not even his not even his real name.
Right,
You
exactly.
want
You
his
just
real
sign
name,
it.
it's cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. So with
Makes
that
sense.
being said, well, between the 750 and the 1160, we'll just say $1,000 for a signature for argument's sake, right? Here's my thing. One, you're not getting a Tail Suspense 39 signed by Robert Downey Jr. If you are, you need your head checked out. The only two people that are touching that book for me is Stan Lee or Don Heck, and they're both gone. You're not having him sign an Avengers #1, right? Because the only two people that are touching that is Jack Kirby or Stan Lee. An Invincible Iron Man #1, another book. Would you want him to sign that? You know, that's Archie Goodwin and Gene Colan. The only book I would want Downey Jr. to sign is an Iron Man 128. We all know that Demon in a Bottle book because that book is fitting for him. But at $1,000, that book is nowhere even near that. So how does that hold any type of value? And CGC is slick. They got a ton of feedback, all negative, of course, by real collectors, and they disabled the comments on those posts. So it's like, guys, you got the Green Ranger signing, you got the voice actor from Miles. All I want is creators touching my books, man. Whether you're a publisher, an editor, an artist or a writer, that's it for me. So maybe take less time focusing on actors and your private signings and more time getting the books out and graded correctly and properly, because that's another thing we're seeing, right? A ton of mistakes.
I didn't want to make it a referendum on CGC, but I mean, hey, we got to call out bullshit when we see it. And I think, they're a huge part of this community, right? But they are a business. They're trying to do right by their own pockets. But when it gets too far that way, that's when I start even getting skeptical. And I know that they bought the other facility, and I know they're getting that up and running, but it's like, maybe until that's going, like, you gotta, I think Jay hit the nail on the head. It's like those in-house signings are backlogging all of your books, right? So, but it's food for thought. Like, every collector's going through it right now. If you're somebody that does grade, you're going through it if you are a vendor or a flipper, because like Jay said, there's no wrong way to collect. Anybody that's going to come in the comments and say, screw the flippers, just don't even leave a comment. Unsubscribe now. I know that's not a good thing to say when you run on your YouTube channel, but if you're going to not tolerate everybody's way of collecting, then we don't have a place for you here. I mean, that's just plain and simple. So collect how you want, and just, you got to use your head. Why am I grading this? Do I have enough time to grade this? Am I selling this? Am I keeping this? How much is this book worth if I do get it graded? Or do I not care because I just want to have a cool display like the Butcher 105 on his wall? These are all questions that only you can answer. So we're here just starting a conversation, trying to get everybody's brain going, because we can't answer we can't answer for you guys. I can't even answer for what Jay has to do. I could give him advice. I can't answer for one guy. We go back and forth sometimes, and it's usually guy asks me a question, or Jay asks me a question, or I ask Jay a question, and the first thing you get back is a question back, because you need to know how to answer that question, because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's money situation, time situation, what book it is. So, this is not us telling you what to do, more about just to get the conversation flowing, make you think a little bit more.
And listen, we're not bashing CGC or CBCS in any way. I'm just telling you from experience. The books I've sent in to get signed by creators, they have precedence over other books. When you send your book in for a private signing, that book is signed and back to you in 2-3 weeks, as opposed to just a regular submission. So I don't think that's fair. I think it should be first come, first served basis. Listen, no signatures aren't walking away from that book. If they're signed, put them to the side. CGC knows they're there. Get the people who put in their books and submitted first out first. You know what I mean?
Here's a question, too, because I know you guys are more used to this as well. This is only going to be my second submission when we get it back, obviously.
Third. Come on.
Is it?
Yeah, I got to keep track of your submissions.
Hat trick, baby. 3 times the shot.
All right. Maybe it's the third.
Yeah.
So
it's that one book that you never showed anybody because you're pissed off about it. You forgot about that one.
I did forget about it. Yeah, you're right. Do we count that one?
That's technically that was your first.
That was my first. You're right, and that's very upsetting. Is my first, but we'll talk. That's another discussion.
That's another day.
That's another discussion for another time. Here's my question, and maybe you know about this, or maybe we can do some research about this, or maybe some defects can put comments in and let us know. Do we think, or not even do we think, do we know, like, obviously with COVID and with the pandemic and everyone being home more the last year and a half, let's say, were there like a crazy amount of submissions that have been more than the usual submissions over the past years?
I think so.
I'm 90% sure, yes, because we've talked about this in the past. Like, you know,
Like,
I was
obviously, like people submit, right? They submit every year. They have to know how many numbers come in per year, right? Like we got so many submissions last year. We got so many submissions the year before. And it's probably, I'm going to guess, at a consistent level. The last year and a half had to be like a crazy amount higher. It had to be. With
Yeah, because-
just what's happening in the community and
I'm
what's
gonna
happened
t-
that we've seen. And obviously, I'm sorry, Jay. But go ahead.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to say definitely, actually, not even 90%, 100%, because we've never had this before with CGC. So it has to be an influx of submissions going in because they've never had times like this ever. And I know certain people are going to CBCS, and it's all your preference of which you want, but there's certain people going to CBCS because of the wait time. But if everybody's doing that as well, it's only a matter of time before they get backed up too, you know?
Correct. So that
Yep.
I don't know if there's a light at the end of the tunnel per se. Obviously, they need more people. We know that. That goes without saying. If you're going to take on this or take this on, and it's the numbers are going to stay where they are or rise even more now, you have to adapt. Let's say.
I like it. Well,
I think
yeah, go ahead.
just on the last note, I think it's more of if this is the way it's going to be, collectors are just going to have to adapt. And
100%.
and
Everyone.
it's just
That's my
gonna-
point.
Yeah, a collector's going to have to adapt. And you know what? 6 months later, you're going to get a surprise in the mail.
There you go. So I think that's a good
For
place.
Jay,
to,
at least it's not 9 months later.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
that's
God.
that's the surprise you don't want.
Well, on that note, I think it's a good place to stop and let the defects continue the discussion in the comments. Let's have a chat. Let's talk about this. I'd love to get your thoughts. Maybe it's maybe it's something we'll continue on in another segment that maybe we have planned. A little tease. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe in the next month or so.
Get ready, defects.
never know.
Get ready.
So before we wrap it up, boys, what are we going to talk about? King Khan, Jay, you want to talk about King Khan real quick? Let people know where you're going to be in a few weeks.
Guys, King Khan, thrown by my man Greg over at MTG Comics. Check him out on IG. Check out the website. The link's going to be below. Listen, for the community, by the community. I think that sells itself. It's going to be Erod, the Warriors, the Defects. It's going to be Very Gary. It's going to be Greg there. There's going to be 3 men in the basement, a ton of people. It's, you know, everyone hanging out, having a good time. Even if you're not looking to buy comic books, you could come trade. You could just hang out. Listen, I'm not buying nothing in this market nowadays, but you know what? I am going to hang out with the community. I am going to have a good time. So check out the link below if you're in the tri-state area or even further away. Listen, someone won tickets last night in the live show, so come hang out.
It's worth the trip.
There you go. All right, so we're going to get out of here. Like Jay said, all the information is going to be in the description below. And we'll catch you on the next Defects Discuss. Later, Defects.